1, 2. Okay. So, do I need to start over?
Yeah, tell us where you came from.
Where I came from?
What's your story?
My story? So, I started off as an armor, and then in 2002 is when I got brought to West Michigan. I'm originally from Southern California. I got brought to West Michigan for Marine Corps recruiting. Throughout that time of recruiting duty, I was able to assist young men and women in making that life change and becoming a United States Marine. And then in 2018, when I retired, I was the operations chief for the state of Michigan for recruiting because I became a career recruiter. I spent 16 years in the recruiting field, which then allowed me to have a smooth transition out of the service into the civilian world, and I became a real estate agent right away. I became a real estate agent because my wife's good friend, some of you might know her name is Darcy Fritsch. She used to be with City to Shore also. She always told me, Ken, you got to become a real estate agent. I'm like, wait till after I retire. She's like, no, you need to do it now. That way when you retire, you already have your business established. I didn't listen to her. So in 2018 is when I became a real estate agent, and then now I'm doing what I'm doing now. These are some of my goals that I've had. In 2018 is when I became a real estate agent. 2019 I was the GRAR Rookie Agent of the Year. And since then I've been in the top 300. One time I got the top 100. This year I found out that I got top 200, 197, but still top 200. And then I became an associate broker in 2002. I had two goals in 2022. One was to get my license in Florida, and the other was to become a broker in Michigan, which both of those goals that I set. And I take that back, I had 3 goals. The third goal that I had was to assist 19 veterans within 2022, and I ended up helping 21. So I'm a big advocate when it comes to military veterans, helping those veterans out, regardless of what it has to do, even if it's not to do with real estate. These are just some of the events that I take a part of. I'm president of 92 for 22, which is a nonprofit organization. We raise awareness for veteran suicide and PTSD in the community. And the reason why we raise that awareness in the community is because we as veterans are very stubborn. We don't like to ask for help. So if we're able to educate the community on what signs to look for in that veteran, then that community member can then seek help for that veteran, and they'll end up getting the help. They come to us, or they go to any of the other organizations out there. We do it with softball. We do walks. There's an event in Dallas, Texas that I go to, and that's where this gentleman right here, I forget his name. He's on Fox News or something like that, but he's very important, but I forgot what his name is. He's a Marine. That's all I call. I said, "What's up, Marine?" and he responds. So oh, I was like, "Is that mine?" So my 2022 transactions, and this is not to like gloat or anything like that. I want you guys to see where I'm coming from and why I'm able to speak intelligently on what we're talking about. The average agent closes 12 transactions within a year. And yesterday I was at a marketing class over at GRAR with Matt Muscat, and he said a different thing than this. He said last year the average realtor was 3. He said the average agent was 2. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to stick with 12 because I found that article that says 12, and although it's from 2020, it's still, there's my proof right there. If you want to question me, you go there. But I was involved in 60 transactions, 23 listings, 37 buyers, and 22 VA clients. I said 21 earlier, but it was 22. You're going to say, okay, well, Ken, I saw that list yesterday for the top 300, and yours says 37.5, but you're saying 60. Well, in 2022, I refocused my efforts, and I grew a team. With GRAR, they only give you 0.5 credit for your team members. So that's why the numbers will be a little bit different. So I'm not trying to boost my numbers just for you guys. So let's get into what we came here for, and that's to learn how do we help our veteran clients. First and foremost, I'm going to let you know, if you're not a veteran, don't pretend that you're a veteran because they will see right through you. And you will lose the respect. What you want to do is you want to try to gain that respect within the veteran community, because I will let you know this, just as your clients know other clients that can, or have other people that they can refer to, other friends and all, the veterans are the same. If they find somebody that they can attach to and that they can trust, they are then going to say the same thing to their friends and their service member friends, and you will get even more referrals from that. Being in the veteran community, it's very important too that you understand the VA circular, because the VA circular is what's going to let the lender know what they can and what they can't do when it comes to the VA home loan. Because if you don't know, it's not the VA that lends them the money. The VA sets the guidelines for that government-backed loan, but it's the actual lender that's going to be able to, that lends them the money, the mortgage officer or whoever it is that they end up selling it to after that. But if you read here the background, lenders may charge a flat fee, referred to as an origination fee, not to exceed 1% of the loan amount. That's the important thing that you need to know, is that 1% of the loan amount. The flat fee is charge is intended to cover all the lender costs which are not reimbursable as itemized fees. Reimbursable fees are non-reimbursable fees will include the termite inspection. And we're going to talk about that too when we get a little bit further. But if the lender charges that full 1%, then at that point the veteran cannot come out of pocket for the non-reimbursable fees. That's what gets the offer itself to be different than all others, because as we know, the West Michigan Purchase Agreement, although it has changed in 2022, there are still some of the items on there that make it to where the seller is automatically having to pay something before they even accept an offer. You know, they already know they have to pay something. However, there's this right here. This is what you need to remember, because when we talk about the purchase agreement a little bit later, probably at the next slide, this is what you need to know in regards to that 1%. If the lender does not charge that 1% fee, then the veteran can now pay for those non-reimbursable fees or inspections or whatever it may be. So for example, if the lender charges an $800 origination fee on a $100,000 loan, the lender may charge up to $200 on the unallowable fees. The unallowable fees being that termite inspection and the title closing fee. Not the closing cost, the closing fee. So let's talk about that competitive offer. What are some of the issues that you have had when it comes to writing an offer for a VA client?
Usually turn time. People don't want to wait for closing.
Turn time, the closing time, the 30 days isn't there. All right. Anybody else? Nobody else has had any other issues with the VA? No? All right. So we'll talk about the closing time. Well,
the inspection period, I guess, too, is something else. Or the inspection.
The inspection itself.
The inspection.
Right. So here's a few things that I myself have seen while I've been writing the offers. One of them is the down payment. You always hear that. Oh, they chose the conventional loan because the conventional loan had a bigger down payment. You know what I tell that listing agent? So what? So what? If that offer doesn't go through, if that transaction doesn't get to the closing table, how much of that down payment does your seller get? Zero. Zero, which is the same amount that veteran has to put down as a down payment. You know why? Because they signed their name on that dotted line and they earned that benefit to come into a house and not have to have a down payment. The benefit of that too is that they don't have a down payment. At the same time, they don't have PMI either. Oh, but wait, they have a loan origination fee from the VA. Guess what? If they have 10% or more of a disability rating, then guess what gets waived now? So that doesn't get tacked onto that loan either. So there's different things that you need to know in regards to the veteran client themselves too. And I'll tell you right now, it is not discriminatory to ask them if they have a VA rating, because you're not asking them to try to disqualify them. You're asking them to try to benefit them in getting that loan. Because if you're not asking that, somebody else isn't going to ask that, and then they're going to end up paying fees that they shouldn't have ended up paying. So that
the lender's should zero in on them with as well?
So it depends on the lender that you're using. Every lender out there is able to write a VA loan or fund a VA loan, but not every lender knows how to. And they may know how to, but they don't know the specifics. I mean, it's kind of like you're not going to, if you have to have eye surgery, you're not going to go to your primary doctor to give you that surgery. You're going to go to a specialist. So you want to find that lender out there that is familiar with those VA home loans so that you won't have any turbulence while you're going through that transaction, so you can make that 30-day turnaround or more. So it was in paragraph 15 with the termite inspection. However, in 2022, it was removed. But we're going to talk about why you still have to look at paragraph 15 when it comes to the inspections, because it's still going to be relatable depending on the lender that you use. And then 21, the title fee. And then the appraisal. Oh my goodness, the appraisal. Myself, I had offer in on a house, and it was it was a bigger house. I wanted the property, 7.86 acres with a 60 by 40 pole barn. I was like, yes, I got room for all my toys now, and the appraisal came back low. Has anybody heard about Tidewater? So Tidewater, the VA loan is the only loan that you have two opportunities if the appraisal comes in low, two opportunities to prove the value of that home. So two opportunities to assist your veteran in still being able to get into that home without having any turbulence as far as when it comes to negotiating. So Tidewater means that the appraiser was unable to find the value that you agreed upon based off of the comps in the area. Well, they used 3 to 4 comps. So it's going to give you and the listing agent the opportunity to go out and find different comps within that area. Usually within 7 miles is what the VA is looking for, depending on where you're at. If you're in the rural areas, then obviously you got to go a little bit further. If you have those houses that are above that $600 and $700 mark, then you might have to go even further, because you have to have the comparables to that house, not just any house that sold for $800,000, because it may be $800,000, but it's only on an acre and it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Some agents think it's worth that, but so you have to find those comparables. So you might have to go out a little bit further. If it's a regular home that's like in a subdivision or whatnot, the easiest way to do those is to look in the same school district. If for some reason after that Tidewater, you have 48 hours to be able to get those comps into the appraiser, and then the appraiser then has 72 hours to get the appraisal back to you. They don't tell you what they think the value is because they couldn't find the value. They don't tell you what comps they used because they want you to find comps. So the comps that you turn in may be the same ones that the appraiser already used and couldn't find that value. But if that's the case, in the appraisal, it'll say which ones that you have given, and it'll say why they were used or why they weren't used if you don't see them being used within the comparison analysis itself. If for some reason you still don't get the value of that property, you have one other thing that you can try to do, and that's called a VA reconsideration of value. That's when you need to make sure that you have a lender that knows what they're doing when it comes to the VA home loan, because that could take anywhere from 6 days to 6 weeks. So if they don't know what they're doing, you need to try to find somebody that does. But again, it's the only loan that you have 2 opportunities to prove that value if it comes back low. What I would do, I have never did a reconsideration of value because of the time that it takes. That's when you put your negotiating hat on and you start to figure out what needs to happen in order for that veteran to still get that home. Sometimes when it goes Tidewater, it has come in to where it's only like 5,000 under, so it's not as big of a deal. For the example with my home, I thought the property was only worth $650,000 anyway, but my wife talked me into offering a lot more than that. Well, guess what? The appraisal came in at 655. So it was probably about 75,000 under what we had agreed upon, and they didn't want to budge with me, so I said, okay, I'm going to walk away. They tried to give me some offers on it, and I'm like, you're talking with a real estate agent also. That is not a good deal. So I'm walking away. It's not the appraised value. Thank you very much. I'll stick with my 2.5 interest rate also instead of the 5.5. So these are just some of the differences with the offers that are out there that you've gone through. Some agents may bring these up when it comes time. But let's talk about this termite inspection. Number 15 used to say that if it was a VA home loan that the seller had to pay for the termite inspection. Well, after a lot of fighting, not really fighting, but a lot of conversation with GRAR, myself, and I don't know if you guys know Brad Stenson. He's a VA home loan specialist. He's also a Marine too. I recruited him into the Marine Corps, and he still talks to me, so I must be okay. But it used to say that in here, and they took that out, and I'm glad that they took it out, but unfortunately is agents didn't get educated on it being there, why it was there, and now what are the consequences if we take it out and that lender charges that 1%. So we took it out of there so the purchase agreement doesn't look bad, but we as agents still need to know that if that lender charges the full 1%, then now we have to go to the page 5 of that purchase agreement and the other provisions, and we need to put in there that the seller needs to pay for that termite inspection, or the agent needs to gift that termite inspection. Or, I'll talk to you about it when we get into the inspections, I got another way where nobody has to pay for it. So, but it's in here, and the whole inspection thing went from 10 days to however many days that you want to have it in there. And I am glad, and I hope that you are too, I am glad that we can now put numbers in there and not have it affect whether or not our offer is going to be getting accepted. I usually put 2 to 3 in there, and then before the offer is even accepted, I already have that inspection scheduled so that I could put it in other provisions. Inspection has been scheduled for this day. That way, you have a better chance of getting it, but at the same time, you're protecting your buyers by having that inspection. There's we all know, there was a lot that went on, and buyers found things out about their house that they should have known about before buying it. And as much as we told them, I don't recommend you waive it, all they saw is they wanted to be in a house, and they heard everybody else saying you got to waive inspections. But you, as the agent, need to always recommend getting an inspection. And if they waive it, make sure you have the inspection waiver. I don't know if City to Shore has that, but have the inspection waiver other than it just being clicked right here. If that is check marked, put initials next to it too, because that's going to save you from them saying, oh, they told me to do it. My agent told me not to have an inspection. Nope, I told you to have an inspection. So right here, if you didn't know also, I don't know, being up in the northern Michigan area, these are the only counties that require the termite inspection in Michigan, which I didn't know. I sold a house up in Big Rapids in Midland, and I was stressing out because we didn't have that termite inspection. And the lender's like, hey, dude, just go to this website right here. It's just the VA website. I was trying to figure out how to get it exactly to like what you would have to search, but I couldn't. So I just put if you want to take a picture of that, you can take a picture of that. Make sure you type it in properly. But that'll come up with every state in the United States to let you know where termite inspections are required. In Michigan itself, it is a low probability that they'll be there, but they still require them except for in the northern areas, as you can see here. So the next thing is the closing fee, paragraph number 21. It states title company closing fee if applicable, except for in the case of the VA home loan where the seller will pay for that closing fee. It's a VA loan. The listing agent is seeing that it's a VA loan. And if you are primary listing agent too, I'm glad you're looking at this, or you're here and finding this out, because now you know what to look for when a VA offer comes in for your client. This is one of the things, even though it depends on what title company that you go to, how much that fee is going to be. As you know, the title company can make that fee whatever they want, but in order to be competitive with other title companies, this is one of the numbers that you need to be looking at too. They can't adjust those other numbers because the other numbers within the closing costs come from the price, the purchase price itself, and the percentage that the state requires. But this one right here is on the title company themselves. So it can be anywhere from 150 all the way up to 499. The title company I use is $299, so I'm not sure which one City to Shore uses, if you have a specific one or not. But this is what I do. So back when it was in paragraph 15, I would just cross it out. When I had a VA lender or a VA offer, I would cross it out and I would put the initials next to it. I didn't used to put the initials next to it, but then the lender that I use started requiring it. I'm like, you know how long I've been doing it, and now all of a sudden, oh, we have a different underwriter. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I just put it on there just to make it happy, and I didn't want to have any hiccups because we all know that when you send something back to somebody, it takes them forever, even though all they have to do is just open up that little email and click a couple of buttons and it's signed, but it still takes them forever. And then if they mess something up, then it erases everything. I was like, oh man, why? I should have downloaded it first and then put it in there, but you know. So I would just cross it out, put the initials. Same thing right here with paragraph number 21. Cross that out, put the initials. And again, I will reinforce this, that you can only do this if your lender does not charge that full 1% of the purchase price. So who you work with matters. Who you work with matters, and I firmly believe that because you need to be educated. The more education that you get on the VA home loan and writing a VA offer, the better it's going to be for yourself. You don't know how many times that I have actually been on the phone with a listing agent. For example, there was one that was over in the Caledonia area that was a $899,000 home, and the listing agent asked me, well, isn't there a cap? Doesn't the VA have a limit? And the answer is no. So what it is, it's the Vietnam Veterans Blue Water Act of 2020 that takes that cap away. As long as they have full entitlements, which means that they don't have a VA loan somewhere else, as long as they have that full entitlements, they're able to, they can go as high as they want. You know, there's $1 million homes that are being sold under the VA offer, or the VA loan. And if you didn't know, yes, you can have multiple VA loans out at one time. It just depends on how much I just said it. Entitlement, yes, thank you. It depends on how much of the entitlement that you have. For example, I could keep my house right now that I live in, and I will, if I can find a house that's $350,000 or less, I would still be able to keep my house and get another house. So it just all depends on how much entitlement that you have wrapped up in that current loan, but it can happen. And you can use the VA home loan multiple times. If, for example, you live in a house right now and you have a VA home loan on that house, but you're planning on selling that house before you get that next house, it can happen immediately. Some lenders will say, oh, it's going to take 30 days for you to get your entitlement back. No, it doesn't. It can happen. You can close on your house and close on your new house on that same day and get that full entitlement. It's just, obviously, it's a contingency for funding, but working with the right lenders and them knowing the VA side of things, they can make things happen right away. So the concessions. This is one of the things that I do. And again, I'm glad that it's going back to being able to put this in there, because before it was automatic, nope, next, you know. Now they're actually looking at that and they're going to see what it is that you're asking for and not necessarily why, but this right here. How many of you put on there, whenever you ask for concessions, you put on there seller to credit buyer 3% of the purchase price towards closing costs and prepaids? Anybody use that when they put it down? Yeah. Well, guess what happens if all that money is not used? Who does it go to? Goes right back to the seller. Check this out. For your VA clients, if you write it like this, seller to credit buyer, you can put 3% there if you want, or you could put a number. It's up to you. For reoccurring, non-reoccurring, in a VA non-allowable fees or debts. So I usually put that their seller to credit buyer 3% of the purchase price towards allowable and non-allowable VA fees and debts. So guess what? The house that I was going to buy, the seller was going to give me 4% back towards closing. 4%. Closing for me, because I'm exempt veteran for property tax, so my closing cost was only going to be 2% of the purchase price. That means that I had 2% left for those fees and debts. I was going to be able to pay my car off. I was going to be able to pay my credit card off, and it was going to be allowed because it said it in the purchase price, or sorry, the purchase agreement, that I can still use that.
The VA will give that back to you.
They pay it straight to the title company has to pay it straight to the creditor. Yeah. So I didn't tell the sellers that. Obviously I didn't tell the listing agent that. Now I'm giving you my secret. So if I ever come in to offer with you guys, don't hold it. Hey, wait, Ken, hold on. I need to do what's best for my seller, and that's going to take money away from them. But I will say that when I ask for money back on a purchase agreement, it's usually kind of give a little to take a little. It's not you're asking $250,000 and I come at $200 plus I want 3% back. Yeah, I want to really get a good deal. No. So the lender fees matter. As you know, that 1% of the purchase price. Try to find a lender. If the lender that you use right now states, yes, we do charge that 1%, all you have to do is ask them. You just ask them, can you change it so that I can remove this from the purchase agreement? I'm saying this because I saw that they were on the schedule, but Northern Mortgage, that's all I did. I talked to Josh and I asked him about that. He's like, yep, whatever we need to do to get some of your VA clients, we'll do it. So Josh, Tim, Marty, all of them, they all do a phenomenal job when it comes to that, and they're willing to work with you too. And they will get you closed prior to 30 days. Termite inspection, we talked about that termite inspection. I have a list of inspectors that will already, if it's a VA loan, you just put on the request, it's a VA loan, and they would do a free termite inspection. So therefore, regardless, if you're using that inspector, you can cross that out. And basically what they do, let me retract that a little bit. They would do a free termite inspection with the home inspection. So you have to get a home inspection with them, otherwise it's going to be like $125 for the termite inspection by itself. And then the title fee, talk with your title companies. They cannot give a special rate for veterans, but some title companies out there, they do have special rates for whatever month it is that you happen to be in. But those rates would have to go for everybody within that month, not just your one client. But these are the inspectors that I use, that I have used in the past. Again, it's all a matter of whatever inspection company that you use, just ask them that simple question. I am a firm believer that you don't get what you don't ask for. What's the worst thing that they say is no? And then when they say no and you're like, well, I'm going to just go over here to this company then because this company will do it for free. And then they're going to be like, oh, wait a minute. Especially if you use them exclusively and now all of a sudden you're going to start to use someone different. Because then they're going to get a call like Mike Morris with Veterans Inspections. He called me one time. He's like, dude, what's going on? I haven't seen you in a while. I haven't seen your name pop up. Did I do something wrong? I'm like, no, I just haven't been working with many buyers. I'm sorry. And then like that next day I had a buyer and I was using him and I said, see, when I have one, I will use you. Don't worry. He's a Marine veteran also. I try to use veterans for everything that I do also, any companies and all that. Grand Rapids Home Inspections, they are not. But last year at Rebar is when I met with them and they're like, what can we do to get more VA clients throughout, the Grand Rapids area, or more agents to use us with their VAs? And that's what I told them. And they're like, yep, done, not a problem. All they got to do is just let us know that it's for a VA home loan, and they're going to get it done. So, Army, actually, I take this back. The owner of this is, yes, he's Army, but his son also started an inspection. I believe it's called Sincere Inspections. So now the son, the father and son have their different companies. And that is what I have. Do I have any questions?
Is it possible to lose your qualification as a veteran to get a loan?
It is not. You're not going to lose it. Once you get it, you have it. But not every veteran is qualified for the VA home loan either. There's certain stipulations. They have to be on active duty for at least 90 days, not including their training cycle. So when they go through recruit training or they go through the training for the job that they're going to be doing within the service, it's when they get to their actual duty station for active duty service members. When they get to their duty stations, it's 90 days after that. And then what you have to do is you have to go and get their certificate of eligibility. Obviously, when you first get in, their eligibility is not going to be as much. But after the 4 years of service, when they get out, then their eligibility, you shouldn't have any issues with them having enough.
But is it possible for them to lose it?
They're not going to, the only time if they default on it. If they default on it, they can lose it. If they get a foreclosure, but at the same time too, once that foreclosure has been taken care of, then the next time they can use it again. The only difference is that when they use it, they now have to have a down payment. But it's not the 20% down payment to keep them from having that PMI. It depends on how much they're eligible for at that time. So, reservists. Reservists are a big thing that we have here in Michigan because we have multiple reserve units throughout the area. We have the National Guard Armory on 44th Street. We have the Army Reserve Unit on 3 Mile up in Walker area. In Battle Creek, we have the Marines that used to be in Grand Rapids, but now they're in Battle Creek. And then the Navy moved down to Battle Creek also, or Fort Custer, whichever, close enough to Battle Creek, that direction. But there's a difference with them because they are not automatically qualified after the 90 days. I believe it is Chapter 10 orders that they have to be on that is going to put them on active duty for more than 90 days. If they have deployed, then most likely they're going to be qualified. With the reservists, however, if they never were put on active orders or they never got deployed, then they have to wait 6 years. They have to fulfill that first contract that they have with the reserves. So just so that you know too, a contract in the military is always going to be initially 8 years. With active duty, it's usually 4 years active, 4 years of inactive reserves, which means that they're still in that reserve component. They just don't have to check in all the time. But if something happens, then all the government has to do is be like, hey, guess what, Ken Murillo, we need you back. Let's go. So that's for the 8 years. For reservists, they're in the reserve program for 6 years and then 2 years of the inactive reserves. So there's just things that you want to think about. I mean, having the knowledge when you're talking to them, when they say, oh, I just got out after 4 years, and you're like, oh, so you still got 4 years of inactive reserves, huh? And they're like, why'd you have to remind me? I thought I was done. So knowing when they're going to be eligible is big too. Knowing that you have to get a certificate of eligibility. Now, if your lender gives you a pre-approval and they have not verified that certificate of eligibility, it is not a pre-approval for a VA home loan. They have to have that certificate of eligibility in order to be a pre-approval. Because we all know we don't work with pre-qualifications, right? Because those are just like toilet paper. You can just wipe your you-know-what with it and throw it away. So get that pre-approval. Make sure that they have that certificate of eligibility. The certificate of eligibilities are so easy to get now because all they have to do is just go onto the VA website, and the lenders have their own little code that they could put in to pull that stuff up right away. If they can't, then there's other ways. You can reach out to me. I'll give you the website that you can go to. It's for the archives, where service members can go in there and they can request their own service transcripts. What else? Anybody else have any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so just to clarify, if the lender charges the 1%, there's a lot of things we can't not do in
Mhm.
the contract. But if they waive that 1%, if they don't charge that 1%, we are able to.
Yes. So if they don't charge that 1% and they have an itemized fee list, and it doesn't equal up to the 1% of the purchase price, then at that time you have the ability to have those other fees paid for. For example, like I know I gave an example of a $100,000 loan on there, but let's go with $200,000. Then now you have $200,000 loan, the lender that I use, and you could probably talk with Northern Mortgage also, but they charge $900. So that's $1,200 that you have to work with. If a termite inspection is $175, we could do that. Even if at high that title fee is $800, they could still do that and have it in there. And it's just a matter of making sure that the lender is familiar, which they should be anyway. I say should, but if you're familiar with the VA circular that was up there, do you want me to put it back up so you guys could write it down? Or if anything, just let me know and I can get it to you. But if you're familiar with that VA circular, then you can always give that to whatever lender it is that you're using too, so you can let them know this is why my client is able to pay for those fees, because it says it right here in this VA circular. And then they're going to be like, well, this VA circular says that it expires on this date. And then you go back to them and you let them know, yes, it does have an expiration date, but with this circular, if there's not another one to resend it, then it's still valid. So you're going to see in that VA circular, you're going to see an expiration date also, but it is still valid because there's not one that took its place. So does that answer your question? Awesome. Anything else? Yes, sir. Oh, go ahead. Kurt?
So you were saying that, so they could buy two houses at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a veteran right now that has his current house. I'm getting ready to list it, but he wants to buy another house first.
Mm-hmm.
So he's 100% disabled, so he doesn't pay property taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Would that go for both houses then, or just the
No,
primary residence that he currently owns?
Right. So the exemption for property tax for veterans is only for their primary residence. So once he purchased that other house, he would only be able to purchase that house if his intent was to make it his primary residence. So then everything would get switched to the new house. And then he would, from the time that he's waiting from when he bought that new house to the time he closes on that old house, they'll have to do a proration of the taxes.
So he'll be paying the taxes on the house that he's
Correct.
moving out.
Correct. Yeah. It'll be the prorated amount, though, from the day of closing on the new house.
That caught me off guard once.
Yeah. So it does, just so that everybody knows that if a veteran is 100% disabled, permanent and total, then they are exempt from property tax in the state of Michigan. The only thing is it's not an automatic thing. There's an exemption form that has to be filled out and given to the township or the city hall every year. And I turn mine in every December, and the great thing about that is within my CRM, I have it to where I know which one of my veterans are the 100% veterans, so that when I send mine out, I also send them out a reminder email. And they're like, oh, gee, thanks. I forgot about that. I'm like, oh, you don't want to forget about it, because then you're going to end up having to pay your taxes. So, yeah.
Big savings.
Yeah.
Like I say, I was all the way up in the Toski.
Yeah.
My lady goes, well, I don't pay property taxes, so this closing document's not right, So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, all right.
That is another screening question that you need to ask your clients when you take them on as buyers too. That's why you want to ask them, do you have a service-related disability being comped by the VA though? Because every veteran's going to tell you, of course I do. I mean, shoot, my head is crazy, But no, every veteran, I am a firm believer that regardless of how many years that they spent in the service, they come out and their body is not 100% like it was when they went in. They go through so many medical examinations and physical fitness tests prior to going into the service that regardless of what they have, somebody at some point said they were good and their body was capable. When you get out, after having to carry the big packs, after doing all the marches, after doing all the running, after doing the pull-ups, all the exercises, everything that the service has to put the stress on your body, they are not going to be 100% when they come out. They are going to have something. If you talk with a veteran and you ask them if they have a rating, a VA rating for disability, and they say no, have them call and talk to me. Don't worry, I won't try to take them as your client, as my own client. I am not like that. I'd much rather get out here and educate other agents, because I know that I can't help every single veteran out there. As much as I would like to, I can't. But if I can help by educating agents, that right there is a win in my book. That's why I'm here today. Because as you know, I'm not a part of City to Shore, but this is my second time being able to speak with City to Shore agents and talk to them about helping veterans. That's my goal. Have them talk to me, because a lot of veterans out there, they think that somebody else needs it more than me. That is not the case. You have earned it. You put your body through it. Let the government continue to pay you for the rest of your life. At the same time, too, hopefully they get 10% or more, so it now helps them with that origination fee. If, for example, one of your veterans, you go back to them and you find out, hey, we didn't have you didn't have that disability rating at the time that you purchased it, and they end up getting a disability rating. If that rating was backdated to before they bought the house, guess what they now rate? They rate to get reimbursed that origination fee. If they don't have it, if they don't have it at the time that you're shopping for houses, don't stop shopping. Get them connected with me. I can get them connected with the contacts that I have at the VA, so we can get get it started. We can get their claim started, and then eventually they can be able to get that. Ask them if they have that rating, and if they say that they do, ask them, do you mind if I ask what the percentage is? Because now you're not looking to see, again, you're not looking to disqualify them from being able to buy a home. Now you're looking to see if they're that 100% permanent and total. But did you know that they actually can be 70% permanent and total and still rate that exemption? So it's important to ask them, and if you don't know when they come up with something, feel free to give me a call. I'll be more than happy to help you get through that. Does anybody know the time? How much time we got? Like 1:45, so we got 15 minutes. So ask them about that. Get them in the VA. A lot of them are, I don't want the VA. They take too long. They don't help. They will help. They have helped me out tremendously, and I always try to get other veterans to be able to use them and to get their claims started too. So, and in turn, I am a firm believer that if a veteran is a homeowner, they're less likely to take their life, because now they have that sense of ownership, which a lot of them struggle with. Because if you don't, obviously I'm not saying if you don't, when we get out of the service, we are every day hanging out with people who are just like us. When we're in the service, our family was there. The Marines were my brothers and sisters. That's what I miss from the service. That's why I surround myself with veterans out here. My team right now, I have 8 agents that are under me, and 6 are veterans. I surround myself with veterans. I teach them what I know so that they can now go out and help their veteran clients that I would have never known. You know, there's a organization out there, I won't talk bad about them, but Veterans United. I don't use them, but my agents use them. And I said, well, why are you using them? You know, you have to pay that fee. And they said, well, because if I don't use them and help that veteran, then who else is going to? And I'm like, why didn't I think of that? I went in and I tried to sign up, and guess what? No, there's no openings in this area. So they got the openings and I didn't. So I continue to help them, help train them, and being able to better serve their veterans. So, any other questions? Yes, sir.
As a seller, a veteran, do they get the title fee waived also?
No. Being a veteran and selling, you really don't get any benefits from it. So. Yes, sir.
You have your lenders call when you submit an offer,
Mhm.
and advocate and kind of explain the VA offer and put in a good word.
Yeah. So the lenders that I use, I have two lenders that I use for the VA. One of them is Brad Stenson, and because he does 100% VA home loans. Marty Miller with Northern Mortgage, and I'm sure Tim and Josh can do it too. I mean, as long as when you speak with the lender and they're speaking intelligently about it, not just saying, yeah, I do VA loans. No, tell me a little bit more. Tell me about the VA home loan. What are some of the speed bumps that we can possibly come up on? And if they can let you know based off of their experiences, what they've seen, then I would say to have them call. But at the same time too, is if you already know, like I know when I use Brad or I know when I use Northern Mortgage that they're going to be good to go and they're well known. A lot of times when people see a Northern Mortgage, they're not even going to question the lending because they know Northern Mortgage is not going to be given pre-approval if they're not actually pre-approved, because then there goes their name if they do that. So it would be up to you. I know a lot of lenders do like to call the listing agent. I know as a listing agent, that's one of the things that I look at. If we have multiple offers and I only had, there was a time, I know it's probably not like that anymore, but there's still multiple offer situations are out there, especially in the 250 and below. But at the time when everything was ramped up and we were getting all these offers in, I would keep track of which agents actually called me before and after, and then called me to let me know that they were submitting an offer. Because you'd be surprised, you probably already know it. Some agents don't even call you. All of a sudden, there's an offer pops up in your email. You're like, what the heck? I knew that you went through, but you didn't even put any feedback. I didn't even know your clients liked it. But then at the same time, I also keep track of what lenders called me. So that way, when I'm briefing the packages, briefing the offers to my clients, I can let them know this agent called me and the lender called me. They're solid. This agent called me. This lender, I've used him before, but they didn't get in contact with me, because that offer should be just as important for that lender as it is for you and it is for your client. So if they're going to take the time out of their day to at least give you a call, leave a message or whatever it may be, then that's like just a little plus next to that purchase agreement, next to that offer. So it's just up to you. I would recommend it. It helps, especially so that they can get them closed prior to the 30 days, because that's something that you brought up before. I mean, in my experiences, way back 2018, so long, but I think I've only had 2 VAs that have gone past that 30 days, and it wasn't because of the lender though. It was because the seller didn't make the repairs that were asked, and that the VA or the appraiser needed to go back. And that's something we didn't talk about. How much time we got, sir?
7 minutes.
So what to look for when you're going through a house, and I tell all my clients this, regardless of what type of loan terms that they're using, I tell my clients, you are looking at this house to see if you like this house. I am looking at this house to try to mitigate anything in the future that's going to be brought up, whether it be from the inspection or from the appraisal. But as you know, with a VA and the FHA, there's different things that the appraiser looks at. So if you're familiar with the FHA standards for appraisal, then you're going to be okay with the VA, because they're kind of similar. There's only a little bit of difference when it comes to this. You're going to look for that chipping paint around the windowsills. You're going to look for that chipping paint on the walls. Why? Because we as veterans like to eat paint, I guess.
Or crayons.
Marines eat crayons. The red ones especially.
Right in front of the room.
I'm surprised nobody brought me some crayons today. But you want to make sure that there's no chip paint. If there is, you want to get that mitigated prior to the appraisal. And I say this because if that doesn't take place prior to the appraisal, then your client now has to pay $150 for that appraiser to come back and say, yep, they painted it, and then walk away. You want to save your client some money, so get it painted prior to. When you get it painted, though, make sure that they put something on the ground so that when they sand that window ledge or wherever it may be, those chips of paint don't fall on the ground. Because if the appraiser comes back and sees there's chips of paint on the ground, now they're going to be like, those need to be picked up. $150 later, yep, they were picked up, and then walk away. So you want to try to save your client some money regardless of which type of loan term it is. There's safety issues, handrails. How many of your clients or how many houses have you been through where the owner of the property has taken those handrails off because they needed to make it wider to get their couch down the stairs? Get the handrails put on. The benefit, though, is that if the handrails are not on when the appraisal comes through, it's okay. Get the handrails put on, take a picture, and that's one of the things that can be verified by a third party. So talk with the underwriters for the lender that you're using, send them the picture, and then they can approve it for the appraisal. The only thing that they can't approve is, for a third party approval, is going to be that paint. Stairs. If there's 3 stairs or more, you need to make sure that you have the handrail. Some inspectors will say the handrails are not good because they don't have that grasping area. If there's a handrail, the appraiser is not going to say anything about not having that little grasping knob that they put on the top. That doesn't make sense to me. Because if I'm falling, I'm not reaching for that little thing. I'm reaching for that whole thing, and it's probably going to end up coming down with me because the way things are built nowadays. But, so that any type of safety concerns, cracked foundations, the foundations, the appraisers usually don't hit too bad. Unless when they look at that wall and they're looking at it and they see that it's coming out, then that's an issue. But when you have the center block foundations and you see the step cracks, those are normal. Unless there's water protruding through them. Then it's not normal. So some things you can use common sense with, other things, make sure that it gets taken care of prior to, and that way it'll keep that process, that transaction going smoothly, and you will get to the closing table on time and have that loan funded on that day. Yes.
Some of you may or may not know that, let's just say you were to get a listing now and the paint's peeling. Sherwin-Williams has a product that you can paint exterior up to 35 degrees.
Nice.
Which is really handy. It's still in your best interest to get the chips painted before you put the home on the market.
Mm-hmm.
And lead-based paint is real. I had a rental property and a kid ate it.
Oh.
And went to the hospital. And fortunately I had insurance. But you can be aware of it for yourself, rental properties, and clients.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter when the property was built either, because the appraiser will just say, yeah, it may have been built in 2020, but I don't know that the paint that was used wasn't from 1977. But yeah, I had it was a garage, a one-stall detached garage that was built in 2008, and I know it was built in 2008 because the plywood for the roof had the 2008 stamp on it. Right? And I let the appraiser know, and they're like, well, we don't know if the paint, though, that was used had lead in it or not. So we ended up having to scrape it and paint it and all that stuff. But yes, it is a real thing that's out there, regardless of what year that the house was built. But at the same time, too, because we are in Michigan and the weather, you can't paint exterior when it's that cold outside. You could still close on that house and get it to where you escrow the money. The seller will end up having to escrow the money. But when the weather is good, get it fixed. The only thing is the appraiser will have to come back at that time. If it is not fixed by that time and they continue to hound you and hound you and hound you, and why have they not got it fixed? The VA has the option to take that loan back, and now the buyer or the owner has to pay the loan in full. So that's a way you can lose it too. So we're good. We're talking now. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Well, I appreciate everybody coming in today. Wait, hold on, stay there. We got to get a picture and do social media stuff. I know there's somebody who has cameras and everything before, but yeah.
You guys take a picture of him and just say, hey, look what I'm learning at the C2S All-In Convention.
Sweet. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, if you weren't able to get my number up there, feel free to come up. I'll give the number, and either that or you can look me up on social media. I'll be more than happy to add everybody. Follow me, share my stuff, steal my posts too. Steal them and use them for yourself. I don't care.
Thank you.
For sure.
Good service.
Not a problem. Thank you.